Spoiler warning! How do you like that? Yeah, huh? Not so close now, are we? What I thought. Deal with it. I say that with all niceness and respect. I do realize it was a little close last time, and now hopefully I'm not as close. Apologize for the lack of posters on the wall there, mainly because I'm still waiting on the new posters I wanted, because this was only supposed to be a temporary thing anyway, and now it's not. But yeah, I'm not too happy because my posters should have shown up last week, and they haven't yet. A little worried, a little annoyed. But that's not what I want to talk about today. So I finished catching up with Attack on Titan yesterday, and it reminded me of the problem that I've been having all season with this show. And not just with this show in general, but like what I like to do with shows like this. And that is, you can't marathon them in the same way that I would like to. Like, there are shows out there like Titan that have this setup so that the end of every episode is its own little cliffhanger. And story writers do this so that people are more motivated to come and see the next episode. But some shows do it worse than others. And Titan is one of those shows where there's like a major cliffhanger at the end of every episode. And by the time, because I actually started watching Titan when it first came out at the beginning of, did it come out at the beginning of the summer or spring season? Whenever Titan started, I was watching it, and by the time I got to episode 5, so 5 weeks in, I was like, no, I can't keep doing this, because every week it was like, new cliffhanger, new cliffhanger, new cliffhanger, and I hate that! Because some of you out there know that one of my things is that the ending is paramount. And I don't just mean that for, like, entire shows on their own, but I also hate it when the story just kind of ends. And when you have a lot of major cliffhangers, it keeps feeling like every week the story just ends unfinished, and it never does get finished. So usually, what I've done in the past, when I've came across shows that do this, is I'm like, okay, I will step away, and I will come back to this show when it is done. I've done that in the past many a time. Problem with doing it with Titan, as I found out this season, is that everybody and their dog is watching it. So avoiding spoilers is almost impossible. It also doesn't help that some people don't realize what constitutes as a spoiler. Generally, I go by the rule that everything is a spoiler, or can be a spoiler to someone. The name of the main character could be a spoiler if you wanted to walk in with absolutely nothing. I know people like that, and that's fine. Personally, to me, this is what is not considered a spoiler. The show's name, the main characters who are introduced within the first 3 episodes, and the general premise behind the show. Anything beyond that is technically a spoiler. And a lot of people understand this, and that's fine. But when you hold off on a show like this, things slip through because not everybody agrees with what is technically spoiler. One of the ones that I got caught on and was really actually annoyed with over the course of avoiding watching Titan was some people don't believe that episode titles constitute as spoilers. They're just like, oh no, that wasn't a spoiler, it was the episode title. And I'm like, I don't care. The episode title for episode 16 is a spoiler for someone who hasn't seen beyond episode 5. It totally is. I think it was episode 16. Like, the person probably didn't mean anything by it, but it's just like a defense mechanism that some people have, and that's fine in that when you say, no, you just spoiled that, you're an asshole. Granted, I never said that they were an asshole, but I felt like it at times, and they were like, no, I'm totally not an asshole, here's why. And they come up with some reason that doesn't actually make sense. I've done that too. I've been on that side. Usually I don't like it when I've pissed someone off by saying something stupid and then I backpedal hard and it doesn't always work out. It's something I've done. But episode titles can be spoilers. I have a show on my shelf, actually, where one of the titles, I'm not going to say the name of the show to help you avoid spoilers, but one of the episode titles is called Die. D-I-E. Try and guess what happens in that episode. Someone dies, and it's a main character too. So if you've only seen like a couple episodes of that show, or maybe if you haven't seen any of it, to know that that character is gonna die, or a main character is gonna die, is a big spoiler because you're waiting for it. And it doesn't have the same impact when it happens. So in Attack on Titan, someone told me, or I heard it through the grapevine, that there was a female Titan. And I heard this because people were like, oh, it was in the episode title. It's not a spoiler. Yes, it is. That was totally a spoiler. For someone who was sitting there at episode 5, yeah, there being a female Titan was a spoiler. And they probably shouldn't have thought of that. But it leads to one of the things that I hate about marathoning, or waiting to marathon nowadays, because it's getting a lot harder, because you can't really avoid spoilers entirely. It's almost impossible, because there will always be those little things that slip through the cracks. Overall, though, I've been doing fairly well. A lot of the major stuff that's been going on in Titan, I was completely oblivious to until I actually watched it in the last 2 days, and that was fine. But because it's impossible to fully avoid spoilers, you always feel like you're missing out. But at the same time, I don't like watching shows like Titan on an episode-by-episode basis. It would kill me. Like, when you have the storylines in Titan that take like 8 episodes or more to finish, they're like movies, basically. You could watch them back to back to back, like I did when I marathoned them, and really you can't tell where one episode stopped and another started. It's just one big story that they just happened to cut up into 8-9 pieces. And when you marathon it, it's freaking enjoyable because you just sit there and you don't even notice. You just hit next episode, next episode, next episode. It doesn't even faze you, and it's just one big, awesome stream of stuff just constantly hitting you. But I know that if I had to watch that on an episode-by-episode basis, I would hate the show. I would hate it. I would be so pissed off at it because it would constantly hit me with these cliffhangers going, why don't you just end? Especially with like the longer storylines, I would be sitting there on like the 8th episode and I'd be like, why hasn't this ended yet? I'm like, come on, move on, we get it. The city's burning, cool, move on. But granted, not a lot of shows are like that. There have been shows that I've been watching this season on an episode-by-episode basis. For example, I was watching Free on an episode-by-episode basis. I was watching the 3rd season of Genshiken, and I was watching Rose and Maiden. All on episode-by-episode basis, never got pissed off with them, because they were different kind of shows. Like, those 3 were a lot more episodic. Every episode has its own little contained story, and that was enough to satisfy me for that week. And then next week comes along, get a new episode. Cool. Titan, not like that. And of course, you become like the butt of everyone's jokes when you don't keep up with it, because now you're disappointing your friends because they're following it like on an episode-by-episode basis, and they can't talk to you about it because you're not caught up, and it's just social pressures all around. Now, has this taught me that maybe I should follow things on an episode-by-episode basis? No, I'm not. The next time another show like Titan comes around, I'm probably gonna do the same thing I always do. I'll get a couple episodes in, realize, oh, so this is what we're doing now, and I will drop it until the show ends. It's probably better that way, because then I like marathoning shows. Marathoning shows is fun. Like, I'm gonna be marathoning this in a couple of days. Granted, that's part 2. It just happens to be on my desk. So, I'm gonna be marathoning that in a couple of days, and that's gonna be fun. I haven't started it yet. It was actually funny because the Right Stuff package that I ordered that from showed up while I was in the middle of watching Titan. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Guess I'm going to put this on my shelf now because I still have Titan to watch. And that was fun. But no, I love marathoning. Marathoning is fun, especially when you have the right kind of show. And Titan is the right kind of show that you can just sit there for hours and just watch and not realize that you started at 6 o'clock in the morning and suddenly it's 10 o'clock at night. I just wish it was easier to do that without the constant pressure and the constant worry of being spoiled online. That's kind of the age we live in. So how about you guys? Has there been any shows that you've watched at one point in time where you realized, nah, I really have to marathon it? Or was there a show you marathoned that you look back on and you're like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't have to watch that on an episode-by-episode basis every week, because that would have been painful. And if there is one of those shows, post down in the comments. I'd like to hear about it. It's always nice to know, and to know that I'm not alone in this little predicament of mine. And before you ask, yes, there will be a review on Titan. You can stop asking about it, though. I know people won't, because, yeah. I was originally hoping for it to be out this weekend, shortly following the premiere of the final episode, but I don't want to rush myself, so it'll be out when it's out. But it is the next review to go up, and when it's out, you'll know, because it'll show up in your sub boxes. Or you could follow me on Twitter at Glass Reflection, and I will be tweeting about it, and you might find it out quicker if you, I don't know, were to do something like that. And that's pretty cool, pretty cool. And if I'm very lucky, my new posters will show up by the time I have to actually film the Titan review, because I'm in the middle of writing it right now. I just decided to take a break because this is the kind of thing that I want to talk about in a review. Like, I had like a bit of a paragraph written on this, and then I was like, nah, this doesn't really fit the review. I'll just make a vlog. Why don't I do that? It's cool. I'll just rant to a camera for like half an hour, and then I'll feel better, and then I can cut that from the review and feel good about it. And with that, we'll see you guys later. So, until then, stay frosty, everyone.